Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the NBA DFS Core Pick video for today, Monday, January 8th. If you are joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. We'll be going over the injuries in play for today's slate overall. We'll go over to DraftKings and FanDuel and talk about my core picks. So it's going to be one player at each position: point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and center. And typically we would have a recap, but since it's been since Friday, since we made a video, there will be no recap for today's video just in general. So without further ado, we'll get started off with the injuries in play for tonight's slate. It is a 6-game main slate and we only have 2 teams on the back-to-back. So we do have a lot of the injury news, at least kind of early on. A lot of guys that are questionable out there for tonight's games. So we'll keep an eye on that as the day moves along as well. So we start off with the Boston Celtics. We got Sam Hauser listed as questionable. He's dealing with a shoulder injury. Then there's Kristaps Porzingis at center, who ended up getting an eye injury. So if I had to guess, he's probably out tonight, and then that makes Al Horford look a little bit better, although he's a little bit priced up on both sides already. Then we have Jason Tatum listed as questionable due to what they're calling, I believe, left ankle injury management. So we'll see whether or not he plays tonight or not. If he doesn't, which is kind of the side I'm leaning on, Jaylen Brown's going to look a little bit better. Derek White and Drew Holiday obviously going to look better as well. And Sam Hauser would probably get the start in his place if he's able to go at the same time as well. Then for the Indiana Pacers, we got Isaiah Jackson, Bruce Brown, and Andrew Nembhard all listed as questionable. Brown did miss their most recent game on the back-to-back, but is expected to play tonight. And then Nembhard's missed a couple games in a row now with his back injury, and now Isaiah Jackson, playing those backup center minutes, did injure his finger in their most recent game, so we'll see whether or not he is able to go tonight or not. Moving over to the Oklahoma City Thunder, they're all the way healthy at this point in time. For the Washington Wizards, they have DeLon Wright and Landry Shamet. Both this is questionable to play for tonight's game overall. Shamet has missed the last couple games, so we'll see whether or not he's good to go tonight or not. But neither playing a big role in terms of DFS for today's slate overall. And then we move over to the Chicago Bulls. Torrey Craig is out once again. Then there's Patrick Williams, listed as questionable due to an ankle injury. Did miss their most recent game. Same thing with Alex Caruso, who is listed with a neck injury, listed as questionable. Did miss their most recent game as well. And they did get Zach LaVine and Nikolai Vucevic both back in their most recent game. Both had minutes limits and came off the bench. So we'll see whether or not they ultimately end up in that starting lineup tonight and if their minutes limits are increased at that point in time as well. On the Charlotte Hornets side, they have LaMelo Ball, Gordon Hayward, Frank Ntilikina, PJ Washington, and Mark Williams all listed as out. So the real new one there is going to be PJ Washington. So the starting 5 are going to get a ton of minutes for the Charlotte Hornets team overall. The backups, if you really want to take some dart throws there, you could do it, but not something I'm going to recommend on tonight's slate overall. Then we move down to the Houston Rockets, who are without Dylan Brooks, Tari Eason, and Victor Oladipo once again. So pretty much what we've seen out of them as of late. On the Miami Heat side, Jimmy Butler remains out, and Caleb Martin listed as doubtful due to his ankle injury. So pretty similar to what we've seen in recent games for this Miami Heat team as well. Moving over to the Utah Jazz, they are all the way healthy once again. And then on the Bucks side, this is going to be a big talking point for tonight's slate overall. We got Damian Lillard and Cameron Payne both listed as out at point guard tonight. So the Milwaukee Bucks don't have much depth left for point guard. Ty Washington might get some minutes. They might ultimately end up starting like Marshawn Beauchamp, Andre Jackson Jr., Pat Connaughton, and then leave it to like Chris Middleton and Giannis to kind of do a lot of that ball handling duty, which is something they could do. And then once again, Jay Crowder remains out for tonight's game. But going to be a pretty interesting point here, kind of mix and match some of these guys for the Milwaukee Bucks team overall. Kind of whoever ends up in that starting lineup is probably going to be the most interesting overall, though. Then we move over to the Phoenix Suns and the Clippers. These are the 2 teams today that are on the back-to-back, so we'll see what their injury report looks like as the day moves along. Probably a notable one is going to be whether or not Kevin Durant plays on the back-to-back, since he just did recently return to the lineup. But with that being said, that's a quick little rundown on all the injuries in play for tonight's slate. As always, I will be leaving injury updates down in the comments throughout the day, as well as the starting lineups as they do come out throughout the night. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to DraftKings and talk about my core picks for today's slate overall. So at the point guard position on DraftKings, we're going to go with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander today. He is $10,400. Looking for at least 52 fantasy points. Currently I'm projected for about 55, 56 tonight. It's a great matchup tonight overall versus the Washington Wizards. It's going to be a pretty fast-paced game just in general. So he's a guy that I do like quite a bit on the DraftKings side. A little bit viable on FanDuel, where he's a little bit more expensive just in general, but definitely do like him here. And, this Wizards team, they play fast. They don't play good defense. Oklahoma City themselves likes to play fast, but they do play decent defense at the same time. So do like him quite a bit tonight. The only true risk for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander tonight is if this game ultimately ends up being a blowout, which is definitely a possibility, but at the same time, you can't really project blowouts. So can't really weigh too much into that as we're kind of moving forward, building out our lineups and everything else like that. It's going to be a factor in the back of your mind, but it can't be the lone factor at the end of the day. Then we move down to shooting guard. I think there's a couple different options here that are kind of high upside guys. Whether it's Colin Sexton, Jordan Poole, you could throw Chris Middleton in that bucket too as well, although I'll mention him when I get to small forward here. So I went with Colin Sexton, $5,800, looking for at least 29 out of him. He's been in that starting lineup. The games that he's started and he's played big minutes, he's had really good fantasy performances. So I do currently have projected for 30 tonight. Going against Milwaukee, it's going to be a pretty favorable matchup, a higher pace matchup at that as well. So definitely do like the upside that he could present overall. Then we move down to small forward with Jaylen Brown. Assuming Jason Tatum is out tonight, I like Jaylen Brown quite a bit. Obviously, if Tatum and Porzingis are both out, he's going to look even better. So at this point in time, $8,200, looking for 41 at the minimum out of him. Averaging 37.5 on the season. It's a very good pace-up spot versus the Pacers tonight. You know, a team that doesn't play a lot of defense that is going to play pretty fast. So it makes him look really favorable. Currently, I'm projected for 45. Definitely has some upside for more if Tatum and Porzingis both ultimately do end up getting ruled out tonight. And then at the same time, mentioning Chris Middleton at this small forward position. He's $7,000, I believe, on DraftKings as well. So I like him. I like the upside that he does present with no Damian Lillard out there. He's going to get a bump up in usage, a bump up in assist rate. So he's definitely a guy to warrant some consideration today. Obviously, if Tatum gets ruled in, we'll probably just switch over to Chris Middleton at that point in time. Then at power forward, we got Pat Connaughton here at $3,800. If you're looking at the Bucks team as a whole, you probably want to get to a lot of Giannis today. So there's going to be a pretty big decision point between Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Giannis today. So kind of going back and forth as you're building out your lineups. Between those two guys, you would probably try to sneak them both into the same lineup at the same time as well, since there is a little bit of value to be had out there, at least early on today. But in terms of Pat Connaughton, $3,800, we're looking for at least, $19-20 out of him at that price tag. Do currently have him projected for 22 tonight. If he's in that starting lineup, he's going to look even better. He's a guy that does get a little bit of bump up, and with no Damian Lillard out there on the court as well. So guy that can do just a little bit of everything, shoot the ball a little bit, rebound, get a couple assists, do a little bit on defense every once in a while at the same time as well. So just a guy, if he's getting extra minutes, is going to look a lot better in general. If it ends up being somebody else starting, then maybe we talk about them as kind of a potential value play and move off of Pat Connaughton in terms of the core picks for today. Then last but not least, we're going Chet Holmgren at the center position, $7,700. You're looking for about 38, 39 out of him. He's averaging 37.5 essentially on the season. Goes against the Washington Wizards tonight, which has been a really favorable matchup for centers all season. So definitely do like the upside he presents tonight overall. Obviously, if you want to make this pick Giannis, you could definitely do that and then kind of pay down across the board to go with the core five that we do have here. But we're just going to go with Chet Holmgren here at this point in time. If anything does change throughout the day, I will leave that in the updated core as the day moves along. But really do like Chet Holmgren here. Do have him currently projected for about 40, but definitely has a ton of upside for more in this favorable matchup against the Washington Wizards. Obviously, like I said, with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, there is a little bit of risk of blowout to be had there as well. But with that being said, if you go with these 5 players that I do have listed here, you have $14,100 remaining. $4,700 per player doesn't sound like a lot of money, but there are some pretty decent values out there to be had today. So kind of mix and match just in general. A lot of different ways that we can approach today's 6-game main slate, but should be a pretty good one overall. I do expect at least early on today. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to FanDuel and talk about my core picks over there. So we're going to start off at the point guard position. On FanDuel, do not like a lot of guys at the point guard position today. So Cody Martin actually having point guard eligibility is kind of a nice thing here. Guy that's going to play a lot of minutes, especially with no PJ Washington out there now. So that Charlotte Hornets starting 5 is going to give out as many minutes as they can handle, Cody Martin included, which hopefully his body can handle it because he's been a little bit banged up in recent years. But at $5,100, looking for 25, 26 out of him. I think he definitely gets you at least 26 today, so it looks like a really solid option. Chicago Bulls don't play at the fastest pace in the world, but they are not a good defensive team whatsoever, so definitely do like the upside that he could present today overall. If we get to the point where like Ty Washington ultimately ends up starting for the Bucks at point guard, then he would probably be the guy in this spot, but at least early on, I think a lot of these guys are a little bit overpriced on the FanDuel side for the point guard position today. With that being said, all of them do have a good amount of upside, so they're definitely some consideration for their price tag, but at the same point in time, a little bit more expensive than I'd like to see just in general. Then we move down to shooting guard. We got Pat Connaughton once again, so I talked about him a little bit on DraftKings, but $4,100. If he ultimately ends up being in that starting lineup for the Bucks, it's going to look pretty good today overall. You're looking for 20, 21 out of him. Do have him currently projected for 22. He looks a little bit better just in general. No Damian Lillard out there. Once again, if he's starting, if he gets the minutes tonight, he's going to look like a really good option overall, and it's a pretty decent matchup versus the Utah Jazz at the same time as well. Then small forward, once again, kind of like I talked about in DraftKings, I got Jaylen Brown here. If you want to go with Chris Middleton, go with Chris Middleton. If Jason Tatum ultimately ends up playing, we're probably just going to switch over to Chris Middleton in general. But at this point in time, Jaylen Brown, $8,500, looking for 42, 43 out of him at the minimum. We're going against the Pacers today. Currently, I'm projected for 45, averaging just over 36.5 on the season. But if there's no Porzingis, if there's no Jason Tatum tonight, he is the number one option by far for this Boston Celtics team and going to look really good overall. So definitely do like getting to him quite a bit. But like I already said, if Jason Tatum plays, this probably ultimately just switches over to Chris Middleton. You can definitely play both guys in the same lineup at the same time as well. Then at power forward, we're going to go down to Nikola Jovic. He is coming off a pretty poor performance, but it is a game that Kevin Love did play a little bit better in. So $4,000 probably in that starting lineup. Once again, looking for 20 points out of him. Do currently have him projected for about 22 tonight. Has a little bit of upside there. A guy that can do a little bit of everything. Rebound, score the ball just a little bit. Can chip in with some assist here and there. So a couple of defensive stats. He actually played really well in the FIBA Cup this past summer in terms of defense as well. So definitely do like the upside that he could present. Maybe it's a pick that changes throughout the day, but at least $4,000 on FanDuel is going to look like a really good price tag for him overall. And then last but not least, we got John Collins here at $5,500, playing a little bit more as of late at that center position for the Utah Jazz overall. A lot of centers on this slate I just think are a little bit too overpriced. Kind of reminds me of the point guard position. If you want to go with somebody else, definitely go ahead and do it. But John Collins here makes a lot of sense. Looking for 27, 28 out. Averaging 27 on the season. Currently I'm projected for set 27 at this point in time. Does have a little bit of upside for Morris in this higher pace matchup though as well. But with that being said, if you go with these 5 players that I do have listed here on the FanDuel side, you have $32,800, meaning $8,200 per player. So there's a good chunk of change left over. You can definitely pay up for a couple different options if that's something you want to do, and then kind of stick some of those other value plays in there as well. Or if you want to take a little bit more balanced build and just kind of spread the wealth, $8,200 between the 4 remaining positions, that's something you could definitely do as well at the same time. But with that being said, these are my core picks for both FanDuel and DraftKings for today, Monday, January 8th. As always, if you have any questions related to NBA DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comments below and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Also, be sure to note whether those questions are more FanDuel or DraftKings specific, just so I can best help you as quickly and efficiently as possible. And then, as always, I will be listing all the injury updates as they do come out throughout the day, as well as the starting lineups as they do get announced throughout the night. And then last but not least, I will have my updated core posted about 15 to 20 minutes prior to lock. That will be left as a pinned comment. If there's no changes at that point in time, I'll just leave a comment that says there are no changes at that point in time. If there's any other additional changes after that point, when I do post it about 15 to 20 minutes prior to lock, I will leave them as a reply to that pinned comment as well. So definitely be sure you're checking up on the injury updates on the updated core as we do get closer to lock. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers. Right now we have NBA DFS Monday through Friday in terms of the core pick videos. NFL DFS, the regular season just ended, so won't really be doing any other NFL DFS coverage. If you have any questions about that regarding NFL DFS for the playoffs or anything, feel free to leave it down in the comments, reach out in the community chat, or message me on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport and be more than happy to help you in that regard as well. Just not really doing the content for that for the playoffs. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS, Parlay Play, and Prize Picks. If you are a brand new user to any one of those 3 sites, when you make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. So for Parlay Play and Prize Picks, it's 100% of your initial deposit up to $100. For BetUS, it's 125% of your initial deposit up to $2,500. So some pretty great opportunities to be had there. And then if you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comments or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in NBA DFS tonight.